Hello and welcome to today's lesson for the 2020 Secondary School CIT here at Coyley. My name is Jessamine Price and today I'll be teaching you about argumentative writing. First, I have to apologize though. I am not used to making videos online. I'm not used to teaching online, so I'm still getting the hang of this. If my video is too boring or I make mistakes, I apologize. But I am excited to be trying out some online teaching, and I look forward to reading your writing and meeting you in Google Classrooms after you write. So what are we going to do today? Today we're going to learn about what is argumentative writing and why is it so important for English writing, how to write a good argument, and we'll talk about your assignment. It's not a long assignment. I don't think it's too difficult. In fact, I think you might enjoy it. And I'll give you some tips for good argumentative writing in English. I have a master's degree in writing. I'm very passionate about helping you write well, and I think the topic that I'm going to give you will allow you to write a good essay. First, what is argumentative writing? It's a little hard to say. Argumentative. Don't worry about the T sound. We just say argumentative. It's a kind of formal opinion essay, and it answers a question that has more than one possible right answer. For this reason, when you give your opinion, it's very important to support it with evidence. Supporting your opinion with evidence is a really important skill in the English-speaking world. In fact, we start teaching our students how to do this when they are in kindergarten and first grade. We start with really easy questions that are good for kids, like, what is your favorite flavor of ice cream and why? Or what is better, dogs or cats and why? And we ask them to tell us their opinions and give us the reasons for their opinions. And after many years of this, students develop this skill, and when they get to high school, they might do difficult questions like, should we have a death penalty in the United States? Or how can we help solve the problem of homelessness? We move on to very difficult questions, but we start with easy questions, and we develop this skill. A good argument question is a special kind of question. And sometimes in college, maybe, students choose their own questions. But today I'm going to give you a question for your assignment. But if you have to choose your own question, you want a question that is something people disagree about. So look at these two questions. Question 1, should people be kind? And question 2, should Korea require mandatory military service for all men? Which one is a good question for an argument essay? I think number 2 is a good one. Number 2 is a question where people can say yes or no, and people can give evidence for either argument. This question number 2 is actually a great question if you teach in a boys' high school. I guarantee you the boys will have a lot to say about this topic. Should people be kind? It's an interesting topic, but it's not controversial. I really hope that all of you and all of your students believe that people should be kind. So number 2 is the good argument question here. To make a good argument, there's going to be 3 things that you need to do. Whether you are writing something very easy, like kindergarten style, or whether you are writing a dissertation for a PhD. There's always three things you need. The first one is you need to understand the question. And sometimes this means you need to research the question. You need to learn about the issue. So that's number one. Number two, you need to answer the question directly. This is very important in English writing. And number three, you need to give details to support your opinion. Now we're going to talk a little more about number two and number three because these are difficult and very important. So what do we mean by answer the question directly? What does this mean? There might be a small cultural difference here about what good writing looks like in America and what good writing looks like in Korea. Good writing in America has a clear topic sentence with an answer to the question. Yes, I agree, or no, I disagree. Clear and direct. And that topic sentence should be at the beginning of the essay. If you're only writing one paragraph, and you might just write one paragraph for today's assignment, if you write just one paragraph, your thesis, your answer should be sentence number one. And if you are writing a longer essay, or a book even, then your thesis sentence should be maybe at the end of the first paragraph. And one of the other lessons for this secondary CIT will be a writing lesson focused on 5-paragraph essay structure, where teacher Tim will talk about this in more detail. But the important thing I want you to know about this is if you are writing for American readers or American teachers, don't beat around the bush. Don't beat around the bush. This is an expression that means to avoid the topic or to avoid answering the question. And this is maybe the worst thing you can do when you write an argumentative essay. Think about this situation. She is very frustrated. Why doesn't he stop beating around the bush and pop the question? Why doesn't he just ask her? Ask her, I don't know what he's asking. Ask her for a date, ask her to marry him. I don't know, but she is frustrated because he is beating around the bush. And as people and as readers, we want people to come straight to the point. Come straight to the point. In the United States, this is very important and very deeply tied to our culture. And when I was in graduate school, my professors told me again and again that you have to come straight to the point and you have to say your answer very clearly. There are several reasons for this. One thing is we believe this shows honesty. It shows that you are an honest person because you say your answer clearly. We think this shows intelligence. It shows that you are not confused about the topic, about the question, about how to answer it. You understand the topic by coming straight to the point. It shows that you trust your reader. You believe your reader is intelligent and will understand your answer. And the last thing is, especially if you are writing about a controversial topic, we believe it's really important to come straight to the point because it shows courage. It shows courage, it shows bravery, it shows what we call the courage of your convictions. That means that you are not afraid to say your opinion and explain your opinion. And this is something we respect very much throughout American history, we have respected presidents and leaders who have the courage of their convictions. So that's another reason why you should come straight to the point. Number 3, the last thing you need for a good argumentative essay is to give supporting details. And how you use details really matters, because with an argumentative question, both sides have some evidence. Either side could be right. So you're proving your intelligence by showing us you can use your evidence and your details well. So here's a couple tips. One tip: don't exaggerate. Don't overstate. Don't say, this proves that I'm right. Don't say that you prove that you're right. You probably can't actually prove 100% that you're right. Say something like, this suggests I'm right. This indicates I'm right. That's another good word for this situation. You can be direct, but when you give a fact, explain why it matters. Explain why the fact matters to you. And the last thing that will help you write a good argumentative essay is to mention the counter arguments. So if your answer is yes, show us that you also understand why some people say no. If your answer is no, show us that you understand why some people say yes. Counter arguments are maybe the hardest part of writing an argumentative essay. To write a good argument essay, you have to show you understand these counter arguments. And I recommend using a chart. I put a chart in your handout. This is a chart of pros and cons. Pros, evidence for, and cons, evidence against. Make a chart, make a list. Find out, how much evidence do you have for? How much evidence do you have against? Make this chart before you write your thesis. That way you'll have a good thesis that you can support with evidence. But also, when you have this evidence, you will have some knowledge of your enemy. Use this knowledge of your enemy. Show in 1 or 2 sentences, maybe 3 sentences, show that you understand the argument against you. Here's some complex sentence structures that you can use to do this. Complex sentences are really good for this. And if you have one sentence like this in your paragraph, it will take you to the next level. Okay, so pay attention and see if you can write one sentence like this or 2 sentences like this in your essay. Here's an example of a complex sentence for a counter-argument. Although most people think uniforms make students look respectable and polite, some students feel they hurt their personality development. So we have one sentence with 2 arguments in it. In red, we have the argument that uniforms are good. In white, the argument that uniforms are bad. Let's look at one more. While most people think it's good for students to be comfortable while they are studying, it's also true that it's important for students to learn to work together as a team. Do you see the 2 sentence parts? One sentence, the red part of the sentence argues uniforms are bad. The white part of the sentence shows uniforms are good. We have them both in the same sentence. And this is a way to show that you understand a counter argument to your argument. So try out one of these sentence structures in your essay. Here's your assignment. The question is, should Korean students be required to wear uniforms in school? Since you are teachers, I hope you all have opinions on this. Excuse me. You can draw on your knowledge and experience as a teacher, but you could also think about your experiences as a student. All of those things will help you answer this question. It should be 250 to 500 words, roughly. That's not really very long. In the handout that I gave you, page 6 has a sample paragraph, and this sample paragraph is almost 250 words. So if you write something this long, if you write something 1 page long, that's enough. I don't want it to be long. I just want you to think about how you're writing it and do a good job writing it. You can make just 1 paragraph if you want. If you want to write it longer, you can use 3 paragraphs or 5 paragraphs. But remember, 500 words is not many words. It's only 2 pages maximum. So you don't need to write too much. Just try to write well. And Teacher Tim is teaching about 5-paragraph essays, so I'm not going to talk about those a lot, but try to include all 5 elements that make an essay good. The 5 elements that you need are an introduction. It could be just a thesis sentence. It could be a thesis sentence plus a hook to get people interested. And this is just 1 or 2 sentences. You need to have 3 main supporting reasons for your answer. And talking about those supporting reasons should take up most of your essay, about 70% at least of your essay. And element 5, the last thing you should definitely have is a conclusion of some kind. A closing sentence at least, or maybe a couple of sentences where you restate the issue, and maybe you can include a call to action where you encourage us to do something to help with this issue. Here's the process I recommend for you. Understand the question first. Remember, that's really important. Understand the question and read the sample paragraph that I gave you on page 6. Brainstorm. On page 3, I gave you a worksheet for brainstorming. Do the pros and cons chart. That's on page 4. That will help you. Write your thesis sentence. You can make an outline if you want to. There is a sample outline on page 5. But for a short essay like this, you can also just write your outline very short. Sometimes when I am writing 1 paragraph, my whole outline is just on a note like this. It's just a few words on a note. You don't have to write a fancy long outline unless you want to. And the last thing for preparing, brainstorm your vocabulary right now. Brainstorm your vocabulary before you start writing. Now is a good time to use the dictionary. Look up the words that you will need from the dictionary. Look at the handout I gave you because it also has some vocabulary that will help you with writing about uniforms. Now you have your vocabulary, now it's time to write. And After you write, please do also check your writing. I recommend that you use Microsoft Word. If you use Microsoft Word to write, it does automatic spell checking and grammar check, and those are very useful. Check your writing, make it as good as you can before you send it to me, okay? A few last tips for you. I have 3 tips, and the first one is good English writing is simple. In fact, we have a saying in English, keep it simple, stupid. KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And this is a saying that comes from the American Navy in the 1960s. They invented this saying to remind them when they were building ships and designing new systems that simple design is the best design. Simple design is better than complicated design. And this saying has become very popular in the United States in all professions in the past 50 years. So you will hear people say this, keep it simple, stupid. And in writing, this means don't use fancy vocabulary if you can use simple vocabulary. Tip number 2, use varied sentence lengths. Have some sentences short, some medium, and some long. This is like including many different kinds of foods in your diet. Include many different kinds of sentences. And tip number 3 is connected to that. Tip number 3 is use a variety of sentence types. For example, a simple sentence can just be, I disagree. That is an amazing simple sentence. Compound sentences. Many people say, but I believe, Use some compound sentences in there. And also use some complex sentences. Complex sentences, for example, although many people say, I believe, That's a great complex sentence, and that's the kind of structure you can use to talk about a counter argument. Before you start writing, make a list of some transitions that you can use in your writing. Because is great. If you use because, you have a complex sentence. Because, if, although, whereas or while, which, when, that. These are very, very, very common words and will help you write complex sentences. And for simple sentences and compound sentences, however, yet, though, these are great words too. So try to use some of these words in your essay. Very last thing, sometimes people ask me, in the United States and in Korea, people ask, is it okay to use first person in a formal essay, like an argumentative essay? And the answer is yes. First person is okay. I, me, we, our, those words are fine. But use a formal tone. Use a formal tone. Let me give you an example. 2 sentences. Which one is a formal sentence? Number 1, I disagree with the argument that blah, blah, blah. Number 2, it's really annoying that people think blah, blah, blah. So sentence 1 is more formal. even though it uses first person, even though it has the word I. That is a more formal sentence. Disagree, argument, these are formal words. Sentence 2 is informal. It's really annoying. There's a contraction, it's, and really annoying is informal. Even people is an informal way to talk about the American people or the people you disagree with. That is a little bit informal and a little bit rude. So I disagree. That sentence is formal, even though it has I. And this second sentence is very informal. It doesn't have I, but it's very informal. So don't worry about I or me or we. Those are okay, but try to use formal vocabulary. So we talked about argumentative writing, how to write a good argument, your assignment, and some tips for good argumentative writing. And hopefully I gave you some ideas about why the culture of English writing values the things that it values. Why in English writing we care so much about getting straight to the point. Thank you so much for paying attention and for all of your hard work in this program. My email address is here, so if you have any questions, please send me the questions, but maybe read the examples first and watch this video first. But if after you watch these, you still have questions, I would love to answer them, and I look forward to reading all of your work. All right, take care, bye-bye.